Hey guys, Heidi Foy here with Bullfrog Creatives. A little warning for you. We are going to be talking to Faith Hoffman from the Central Rocky Mountain region. I am sick. Yeah, so we've already prepared like what happens if I go into a coughing fit. Faith is just going to take the show and go and run with it. So I don't know what's going to happen. Stay tuned with us. We've got some good stories to tell, and we're going to review who is going to be coming to Casper for the Central Rocky Mountain region. You guys, stay tuned. All right, we are back. Faith, thank you so much for joining us. Actually, rounding up the faculty directors and the student directors has been a little bit easier this year than I anticipated. And I do know that many of you have started jobs for the summer, or for those coaches are working their other jobs, because I know many of them are dual job workers. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you guys giving me this, I appreciate your time. There you go.
Well, I'm happy to be here and just to not only promote, our region because I love it, but just college rodeo in general and what it's done for me. It's good to give back and little
That's
things.
right, for
This
sure.
this this isn't that much time, for all that it's done for me. So
Yeah. So I will tell you that's kind of where this platform started was as I age a little bit, I really start to understand those formative years and what college rodeo did for me and kind of what it gave to me and what now I can do for it. So that's definitely kind of the driving force behind Bullfrog Creatives for sure. So I appreciate you saying that. So let's talk real briefly. We'll just do kind of a quick story time for the Central Rocky Mountain region. Where do y'all go for the Central Rocky Mountain region? Who does that include?
rodeos are all of our schools.
Well, all of our schools. And if you need a little assistance, I can pull up that page. I always have to look because I can't ever remember who is where.
Yeah, so we're mostly Wyoming and Colorado. There's a couple like northern Wyoming schools that go to Montana, and there's a couple western Colorado schools that go to Utah. But for the most
Okay.
part, um, yeah, we have Casper and Riverton, Shadron. So they're the only Nebraska school that comes to us. CSU, Torrington, which is EWC right there. Gillette, Lamar and Otero are both Southern Colorado schools. Cheyenne, Northeastern Junior College, which is where I went to JUCO. And then Otero, like I mentioned, here at the University of Wyoming that I'm at, Sheridan up north, and I think that rounds
There
us
you go.
out. Yeah.
That's it. Very well done. There's no way I would be able to remember all of those.
Well, and it's nice, at 10 of them, and there's 12 schools. There's only
Mhm.
two or three that don't have a rodeo, so I mean we go to most places.
Yeah. So let's talk. We were talking off camera just about maybe some stories that you could tell once we went live. Um, Go ahead, and one of the ones I think, you mentioned there's always stories about tire blowouts or breakdowns or, there's always that. I'm not even pulling and I have those stories. So, but let's talk about the places you guys got to rodeo this year and last year. What are kind of your favorite arenas to go to?
I think we get some really cool opportunities. I think this region has a lot of really big pro rodeos that are well known around here. Um, I know, like Sheridan, we get to go to their big pro rodeo arena, which is huge. We can set up longer scores there. It's really fun. Lamar's always it's a big outdoor. I'm kind of partial to the big outdoors, but the coolest ones, like of my 5 years of being in this region are probably when we went to Frontier Park at outside at Cheyenne and Greeley, at the Greeley Stampede Arena. Um,
So did both of those start out of necessity when you guys were kind of rebounding from COVID, or were you like I know that Cheyenne was, but what about Greeley?
yeah, I think they had the option. It was hit or miss with Greeley. It was really close, came down to the deadline. It was actually their backup plan because CSU is the oldest running college rodeo,
Hmm.
actually. And so they have their barn that it's been in forever, but they were doing some construction. Um, not necessarily like remodeling, but like necessity to keep the building alive construction, and they weren't sure if it was going to be done, and things were changing over there, and so they called Greeley and were like, hey, they had high school rodeos there, could we have a college rodeo there? So it ended up working, and it was really close to the deadline, and they're like, you know what, let's just have it at Greeley, and we ended up, and it was super fun and different, and similar to Cheyenne. A lot of these kids, they're not gonna pro rodeo. You know, college rodeo is just kind
Gonna
of
be
their
it.
last step before they go into their careers, help pay for college with scholarships and stuff like that. So it's cool to get to rodeo, you know, to give them this opportunity. I mean, we do have a lot that are gonna go pro rodeo and be successful, and you see it a lot. College rodeo is a stepping stone before their professional careers. But I think it's cool just to do that, and you know, now that breakaway roping is included at these big rodeos, that's cool. But um, you know, before it would have been the only time to breakaway rope there, and let alone it's the only time you get to tie a goat there. Being a goat tire, I'm a little biased, but I think that's probably the coolest part.
Yeah, so let's talk about the goat tying. Cheyenne is more known for the size of the arena, and the length, just the sheer largeness of it. So let's talk about the score last year in the goat tying. What was the score for the goat tying last year?
Yeah, so the first year we had it, the score was 225 feet from eye to stake. So
So listen, I think a lot of the people that watch this probably already know this, but a normal, I guess, a standard pattern, so to speak, for goat tying is a 100-foot score.
yep,
So
all your
more
junior.
than twice the length. Um, my first thought, of course, was the amount of speed that is picked up by the time you get to 200, 225 feet is probably a lot more than on a 100-foot score. Um, I'm guessing that people that probably never wrecked may have biffed it. It's just a little bit different
Yeah,
because I would think like in my routine, it's like kick 3 times, check, go. Like there's always, you probably have something similar to that. Like you have this normal pattern that you go, and it's completely different when you set up an arena like that.
absolutely. And so yeah, your standard, all your junior high, high school, they have to be 100. That's all it is. You get to college, then you can start changing it. Our college finals, it's an 80-foot score, so
Mhm.
it's shorter than standard. But then we get to go to these big outdoor rodeos, and like our whole fall, we don't have one under 120. So they're longer in general, and so you can't get pattern to that 100-foot score
Mhm.
here, which is I think it's nice because I think it one keeps your horses honest and you honest, but you definitely can get some more speed going down to it. I remember, and it was oh, it's been a while, but I want to say it was still like 75 feet from
Mhm.
the gate to the eye before the run 25 feet. So you got a long ways. I remember in the long round I had my whip and I was batting her with it and I ended up like losing the stiff part of the bat and I just had like the flimsy handle and so it was
Mhm.
like flapping behind and I was like, okay, this is not using and I still had probably 200 feet, you know, it was right right at the beginning. So just kind of had to ride without my whip and that's kind of I didn't count kicks, I counted bats,
Yeah.
I was on my standard score. So it definitely it can be intimidating because you got a lot of arena ahead of you. But at the end of the day, it's still a goat run, and I mean I want my horse to be going that fast if on a 100-foot score ideally, anyways. So
Yeah.
I I didn't treat it any different, and I think the other girls that were successful did the same.
Yeah, and I would add too that it's also interesting. I don't know if you look at standings in other regions or like results from rodeos, but you can't always take the time to heart. Like, oh, we're tying six, they're tying fives and sixes in this region. Okay, well, what's the score? Are they tying? Are these indoor pins? Are these outdoor pins? If a 7-8 is winning here on a 200-foot score, like how are you comparing that? So I think that kind of changes the game too. Like just to keep your mind in the middle and don't worry about what everybody else is
Yeah, absolutely.
doing.
And I do look at other regions mostly because I got friends that I grew up with that I've met over my college rodeo career that I do want to keep up with. Maybe people that have transferred out of this region.
Hmm.
Just I want to support them and see how they're doing too. But Yeah, I agree. It's like a barrel pattern, not everywhere is going to be a standard. And even a standard, your ground's going to, you can't say that this 16 flat measures up to their 16 flat there, same the goat tying. And I think like these big rodeos, especially Cheyenne, they lengthened out the score in the timed event too.
Mhm.
It was the 20-foot hand pulled barrier. So it kind of, it felt like Cheyenne. It was a little shorter because I want to say it's 30 during the pro rodeo. Um, but it was, getting to watch a hand pulled barrier and getting to back in that box and the slow release gate and
Mhm.
all that. And it's just a fun experience.
Well, and like you said, and even though there are more opportunities now for women to keep going, like not everybody's going to keep on going. So to have that experience without having that experience, without buying your pro card and entering Cheyenne, it just kind of, it's an added bonus, I think, for this region.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, I know you said that last year it started out of necessity, coming off of COVID. You guys got to rodeo there again this year. I know you said that Seth Glaus was working on it to try to keep it at that facility. I would also add that moving typically indoor rodeos to an outdoor facility is always a risk in the Central Rocky Mountain region, anyways. I mean,
Absolutely.
for those of you guys that are watching not from Wyoming, it's snowing here today,
And it's made.
so it's ridiculous. We've already had this conversation. And I will add that if you are coming to the finals and you've not been to Casper, please pack for all seasons. Unfortunately, we have gotten snow during the CNFR in June, so pack appropriately, or
Yeah.
just go hit up one of our local sponsors and buy all your things there.
Yeah.
How's
That's
that?
great.
Yes.
No, I'm originally from Colorado. Now been in Wyoming for a couple years, but uh it snowed back home in like June 1st or something like that, and we're 5 hour, they're 5 hours south of Casper, so it definitely can snow, and you can experience who I mean it was 104 I think Wednesday of college finals last year, which
So hot.
yeah, and the southern people are gonna make fun of me, but I was not handling it well. I was like, someone broke the AC in Wyoming, turn it back on.
Yeah. Well, and for those of us that are from here, I mean, we might get 3-digit heat in July or August, like maybe. But to have that kind of a weather in June was crazy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I can tell you, I have watched tornadoes touch down, like not not big tornadoes, not like some of our regions have seen, but I've watched them from the event center being up there for Slack. So we literally could get any type of weather in June in Casper. So just pack all the things. Just pack all the things. So
And I love Wyoming in summer. Like I believe it's unbeatable. There's not a better
mhm.
place to be in summer than here in Wyoming. But you have those risks. You don't know
Yeah.
which. I mean, it is May 20th, and we got roads closed because of snow here. I mean, the interstate just opened up here in Laramie. So,
Yeah.
but no, I think that is one of their worries about keeping Cheyenne outside because my first 3 years here, um, it was indoors, and I don't remember a Cheyenne where it didn't snow at some point. I mean, it is so like it would. I remember it blizzarded one year there, and we thought we were gonna get stuck in Cheyenne, ready to leave. And so we've been blessed actually the last 2 years, um, with it outside that it's been beautiful weather. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like 75 and perfect this year, and
Which is funny. It's also funny to talk to so many different regions and so many different areas that are rodeoing, because when regions start is different in each area. I mean, I think West Coast has some rodeos in March, which that would not that's not an option for us. Early
no,
March, that's just not an option. So, kind of hearing about the different weather trials, obviously, I think there were some. Now I can't think. Garden City Community College, I think they had some snow in the spring last year that like stopped everything. And so that's pretty normal for us. But comparing the seasons and comparing the weather across the board, it can be very interesting what people are used to and what they're not used to. I mean, that's kind of in everything, but in rodeo, there's just so many different elements to add to it. It changes the game a little bit.
Well, and like we're not on a flight like the football players. We're not bussed everywhere. We're
Hmm.
driving ourselves. Hence why the blowouts and the breakdown stories, I think they kind of um, are all
Normal.
across the board in rodeo. And it's just we usually have our 5 rodeos right in a row. There we might
Yeah.
have a weekend off, like we had Easter off this
Yeah.
spring. Um,
Which
but
that doesn't always happen.
no, and no, I think that's the first year of my 5 years that we've had Easter off, but we try to fit them all in together and we try to schedule accordingly. Like in the fall, Lamar's last because it's the furthest south. And we just, they've scheduled it to where usually they have the better weather, so we're gonna put them last and we're gonna have Riverton and Sheridan towards the beginning of the semester. So, we can hopefully have better weather then. But
Yeah.
uh, I know talking to other regions that they start, you know, 2, 3, almost a month before us in some aspects, and then they'll take some time off or in people think it can be a little hectic when you have 5 weekends in a row. Missing 5 Fridays of class can catch up to you really quick. But
Well, and I would add too, like missing 5 Fridays. Excuse me. When I was in college, it'd be your first Fridays. So you're trying to get used to your class schedule, meet all your professors, and then you're out.
yeah, no, but I do think we're fortunate because we do rodeo Friday, Saturday, Sunday every weekend here that you can kind of get in routine. You can talk to your professors, tell them, "Hey, uh I'm on the rodeo team. Like I'm gonna be gone at least 5 Fridays, and sometimes we got to leave on a Thursday, but I know other regions they'll rodeo Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and so they're having to leave Wednesday depending on how they travel and how far it is. But it's really nice knowing you're going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 weekends fall, 5 weekends in the spring. You can kind of plan accordingly. um and I'm pretty central here in Laramie, and even the JUCO I went to was pretty central here. But I think our region, I mean, we have our outliers down in southern Colorado and northern Wyoming. I know them having to travel to each other can be quite the trip, but I know it's not like traveling in other regions for sure. I think we're blessed to be a pretty central located region with all most of our schools being fairly close together. I know Lamar's probably my farthest and it's maybe 5 hours, and I know schools that have to drive way more than that every weekend. So that's pretty uh that's pretty fortunate to to be in this region, and I like dealing with that. So Heidi is having a coughing fit. So we're just gonna recap a little bit of who's going to Casper and what teams made it and our regional champions. So um, being UW, I'm pretty proud of this because we've done it. I think 3 years in a row, maybe four. But the University of Wyoming won your men's and women's team, which I'm pretty proud of. I'm here, so I'm biased, but go Pokes. Casper College was second place in the men's team, which was pretty cool to see. I mean, I do love UW and all my teammates, but uh, being director, I get to kind of cheer on the other teams too. Um, this the men's race was not as close as the women's though, so it wasn't really a surprise that UW won the men's, but we kind of had to work for it at our last rodeo here for the UW girls to win the women's. And then if you can't, you Heidi, can they see this what I'm looking at, or can they just see me? You're muted. I can't hear you.
Man, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, they can see this.
Okay. So yeah, as you can see, we were able to pull through and win it. But it took the last rodeo. They definitely had a chance. Gillette had a chance to catch us, and Gillette was second, so Gillette gets to take their women's team to college finals. But I mean, it was a close race. I mean, all the way down to fifth. Really had a chance to do it. They could have come in the last rodeo. So we got a tough region in the women's side of it. I mean, I biased and I believe we have a tough region in all of it, but just seeing those point totals and how close it was. Because the third place team, Laramie County Community College, Cheyenne, they actually won the last rodeo, but Gillette scored enough points to just stay ahead of them. So
Very good. All right, I'll keep scrolling and you can just keep going.
do you want me to go like all the qualifiers or just regional champs?
You can just talk about the regional champs.
Cool.
Whoever you know, tell all the stories.
Okay, so if you look at the top five in the men's all round, it's all UW, which is pretty cool. I know these guys really well. Traveled with Garrett, the reserve all round, in the fall, and so it was really cool. Not only to get him to see them compete every weekend and really battle it out, but I think the all round is an interesting race because I was in a similar situation last year where it's not really something you practice for. It's not really something you go after. You don't think, okay, this weekend I'm really going to focus on the all around. No, you just focus on your events and see how the cards lay in the end. And that's really what happened here with Bryce and Garrett. They're the two all around and reserve all around that'll get to go to Casper in their events in June. But you can see it's really not that. It's a pretty close race in terms of all around, um, especially because they're both uh, really close. Um, and they actually roped together this spring, so I thought that was pretty cool. Your women's all around, uh, Carissa, man, she just took off this year. She's amazing. She actually took a year off of school, had her baby Silva, which is amazing, first of all, and to come back and just absolutely dominate this region. Um, I'm proud. I mean, I'm proud to call her friend, but also a competitor because she put on a clinic. And we'll talk about her later because she won two of the three women's events. Actually, and then Wacy Day from NJC Reserve all around, she came in and also worked her butt off and got her qualification in the goats and breakaway. Um, so Garrett, another UW kid, he was my traveling partner. He's awesome. He won the saddle bronc riding. He was the reserve all around that we mentioned earlier. Great cowboy. Really just rode outstanding this year. Great competitor. I know, I traveled with him, so getting to see him not only uh, win, but get to have those conversations with him afterwards of how he was winning, how his mindset was, and where his focus and priorities were. And he's just a great teammate to have.
All right, I'll keep scrolling here.
Yeah, you're good. And then our bareback rider was Bryce Patterson, who was the all-around champ that we've already mentioned. It, and this was also a really cool story. Not only did Bryce have to battle it out for his all-around title with Garrett, but who was his teammate and his team roping partner, but he had to battle out the bareback riding with his traveling partner and roommate Donnie, which I think it kind of got normal around here that they were battling out. We just had to watch every weekend
Yeah.
and see, hey, how is Donnie and Bryce gonna ride this weekend and who's gonna win it? And it came down to the absolute last horse, and they put on a show. I mean, I grew up. My dad was a bareback rider, so I've always loved the bareback riding. But I think these two really, they made the bareback riding absolutely an entertainment for this season, and it was super fun to get to watch them. The short round of our rodeo, which is the last rodeo of our region, Donnie was out first and was 83, put on a great ride, and we all just kind of hung at the fence. We're like, "What's Bryce gonna do?" And
What's
uh,
next?
he was, I think they met. Gosh, now I can't remember. I should have looked up to make sure, but I want to say he was 83 as well. And Bryce had beat him by 2 points in the long round, I want to say. So Bryce ended up winning it, but I mean, it was a tight race from the start all year round, and they're great buddies. And um, they shook each other's hand. They have the utmost respect. I know they headed out to a rodeo in Nebraska today together still, and they're traveling partners still. And it's just cool to get to see camaraderie across rodeo, period, let alone on my own team.
Yeah. And what a great partnership, because iron sharpens iron, truly.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Next is bull riding.
Um, bull riding's pretty cool because Kobe Johnson, our regional champ here, he actually had to take a couple rodeos off in the fall because he tore his groin. He actually tore his groin last summer, came back, took a couple college rodeos, retore it, and
Oh,
just decided, he's like, I got to take a couple rodeos off, and it was really hard on him because I mean, I know that kid's a competitor and he loves to compete and he loves to win. And he came back this spring and was able to finish it out. He's won it two other times than this year to our region. He's a great competitor and a great. I know he doesn't go to UW, but I know him well enough. He's a great kid, and our region's proud to have him. He was the bull riding director here, and great at his duties in that too, and just a great cowboy. And all those bull riders are, Garrett making it in the bull riding too, to help his all around, and Stefan Tanita, who actually was in the short round at Casper last year in the college finals. So
very cool. All right. Next is tie down roping.
tie down roping, you don't see as much of a distance in those numbers as you do some of the other events, and so it absolutely came down to this last rodeo, and they roped well, and um, Shadron, another UW friend of mine. He's actually from Colorado, so we grew up junior rodeoing together and all that too. And so it's cool to get to not only grow up with these kids rodeoing and see them and win at that level, but also get into these ranks and getting to win alongside of them and see them be successful here as well. Man, I'm saying UW a lot, and it makes me proud because I love it. But it's pretty cool to see Austin Hurlbert, who actually has won the region in the calf roping before, won the steer wrestling this year, and he didn't have it without any adversity either. Because I know he was hurt actually coming into our rodeo and finished it out, gritted it out, and won the region. Did what it took.
Yeah, you are saying UW a lot. All right. Team roping.
We say UW a lot, but when it comes to team roping in this region, you can't not think of the Johnson boys. And I mean those two Casper kids, Kellen and Carson, they just I mean, they are the team roping ideal in this region for sure. Kellen's won it twice, the national title, and Carson's won it once with his brother. Kellen won it with Trey Yates uh, when he was still at Gillette, and it's pretty cool because they were close to making the NFR this past year.
Super close.
And so they didn't go to some of the fall rodeos. They were up in Washington, California, I think, trying to make it. They were on the road, and so they missed a couple of rodeos. And we all were kind of curious about how it was going to all play out and how many they were going to have to miss just to do this. And man, they're
If they
just
were going to get caught up.
they're just the picture of consistency and smooth, great runs. I mean, I'm not much of a team roper myself, but it's fun to get to watch them do what they do, and I mean, they made what rodeos they made count. I mean, I don't know how many they made, and I don't know how many of those that they won, but I promise you it was a high percentage. I know they came to, I think only 3 of the fall rodeos, and I think they won all 3. So they just,
Yeah.
it's cool to get to see competitors not only of that level but that consistency and just be able to get it done when the time comes.
Well, and there's something to be said about being able to operate and compete in the zone every time.
Absolutely. And
Every time.
Jet, their dad, is a world champ, and he's their coach up there. And getting to talk to him and just be around those guys, it wears off.
Hmm.
They're winners. You can tell the difference, and it's really fun to see. And the team roping all overall was just actually kind of fun to watch this year. It was a battle. You can see that third, fourth place right there is pretty close. Um,
Yeah.
it came down to it, but Casper's sending, uh, I think it's 5 out of 6 of the teams.
Yep.
Yep. So, I mean, congrats to Jet and Casper for having some dang good team ropers.
Yes. All right, let's talk about some women's events.
Yeah. So, I mean, I mentioned Carissa talking about the uh all around earlier, but man, she really did dominate. After taking a year off, you can hypothetical all you want of what would I do if I took a year off? Would I come back better? Would I come back worse? Carissa didn't miss a step. She won the region. Her she's the same age as me, so it would have been our junior year when COVID hit. Took the year off, had her kid, didn't miss a step. Came back. She won the region in the goats that year. Sorry, and came back. Didn't only win the region in the goat tying this year, but also the barrel racing. She's got a cool horse. She rides consistent. He makes the same run every time. It's really hard to beat those. And Ellie's is really wicked too. The bay horse that she rides, and uh, so it's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be pretty cool to get to see these horses run at Casper. And I think I talked about our big outdoors in the fall, and how cool those are. But we have some tight indoors here too. Maybe not quite like the Central Plains region because I know they have really really small indoors. But we got Gillette and our rodeo here in Laramie, and we run in some indoors. And so I think our horses, that run here, they're used to whatever. So come college finals, they're not scared of those walls. These horses that are winning. So it should be fun to see these girls compete up there at the event
I
center.
would add too, as far as Carissa taking a year off to have a kid. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, and to be able to rebound. I mean, I think my goal was to get back to the gym before my son turned 1, let alone to be able to get back to rodeoing full time and being competitive. That's a whole different ballgame. So,
Yeah,
um,
I
it's
mean,
not easy.
I can't imagine carrying a kid for 9 months and then getting on a barrel horse, let alone being able to tie a goat afterwards. And she
Yes.
does both very well. And she's a hardworking gal, and she's got great support system. You see her family all the time, um, and it's just I couldn't be happier for someone to win. It's hard because we're competing, and I'm her competitor, and I promise you, I want to win as bad as any of them. But
Yeah.
um, it is really cool to get to see her win, and just a great person overall is super fun. Um,
All right. Breakaway roping.
yep, also pretty tight race. It was I don't want to say it was decided at Laramie, those three, but definitely Casper was the week or the rodeo before, and it
Hmm.
was absolutely not decided. I think they looked and at Casper, if Peyton and Hayden wouldn't have got as many points as they did there, I think there would have been like 15 girls with a chance going in.
Well, and so Emily, she's kind of one of our adopted college kids, but I know she missed. I think she missed in Casper,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
that kind of opened the field. Truly.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Emily had a very dominant fall, so she came in with it being her region to lose, kind of.
Yeah.
And it was kind of sad to see it because I'm a fan of all these girls. These
Yeah.
getting to compete with them and getting to know them. They're I don't have a bad thing to say about them. They're just great gals. And I really do root for Emily. I think she's amazing. I know she works really hard in school. Being I know it's some sort of professional school. Don't quote me, but specific one. But I know she works really hard in school with a lot of credits going on, and she
Mhm.
competes really well in everything she does. And her family's great, and she's got a great attitude all the time. But it was really cool to get to see a Hayden dominate this spring. Really, she did really well in Casper, and that set her up for success coming into Laramie, and she ended up winning the region. So it's always fun to see these races come to a close. There's always heartbreak involved.
Well, somebody's got to get second.
I well, and I'm I'm no stranger to a heartbreak spot. I've been fourth in this region, uh, 3 times in the goat tying and once in the breakaway. Uh, so I I know
Get
it
it.
farewell, and so it happens, but someone's got to be the sad part of that story. But it is super cool to see the victories.
Yeah, for
And we
sure.
talked about Carissa already a little bit, but it's pretty cool to see those. Uh, you know, we actually come college finals, we should be sending a lot of goat tires between teams and all around. Um, and I don't know what Gillette's going to do for their team because that's their decision. But I know we should take you know probably 6 goat tires minimum. Um,
Very good.
so it'll be cool because getting to compete against these girls, I know they're tough, and I mean, I know there's girls that are tough from other regions, but I mean, I truly think these girls are, myself included, are the ones to get it done up in Casper. And it's not really home field advantage because we don't get to compete in the event center other than college finals, but it is home, really. So it's
Well,
cool.
and that's an interesting part too, that this crowd now knows that our home region is the Central Rocky Mountain region. So anybody from a Wyoming school gets the same hometown welcome.
Yeah, and I mean, they being in that arena and like feeling that crowd kind of above you.
Hmm.
They you hear Casper and they love it, but they say the University of Wyoming, and that place roars, and they hear
Yes.
the Rocky Mountain region, and they know they're like, those are our kids, those are our kids, and it's so cool. They say, oh, she's from Wyoming, and it's just like I get chills talking about it because that was one of the coolest experiences and
It's one
coolest
of the
feeling
best feelings.
to know that you have like that whole building behind you.
Hmm.
And I actually like so at college finals this past year, I roped a front leg to make the short round on my third calf in the perf. And so I was upset. Um and I go tie my horse up and I come back to the stands to find our women's coach, Casey Ray, and I'm sitting there talking to her, kind of got my head down, like, like I missed my slack and that's why the leg stepped in there, I'm frustrated. And this little gal, I think she was 7, she walks up to me and sticks her hand straight out, just, right in front of me. And she goes, I want to be just like you when I grow up. And I mean, I'm not a huge, like a super emotional person, but I mean, I was about in tears because I was like, of
Yeah, it
all,
puts it in perspective.
I'm the one that just got the goose egg on the scoreboard, like I got a 0. And she's like, you rode your horse with confidence. Your horse is beautiful. She shook my hand, she had so, like, I was impressed by her. And I ended up, and I kind of was in shock at the moment.
Yeah,
I didn't know what to say. I was like, me? Why me?
yeah.
And, I was able to, I went put my horse up and untacked her, and I came back and I found her and her folks, and I sat there and talked to them for a couple minutes. And they're hometowners there in Casper, and they don't rodeo, but they love watching it and they love to support it. And it was super cool to get to encourage that little girl. And I ended up telling her, I was like, man, I promise you don't want to be like me. Like you're supposed to be you. That's who you're created to be. And that's who you should strive to be. And she was just such a cutie, and she was super excited, and it was really awesome to get to do that. And so it's super fun to compete, and I absolutely love it. I'm a competitor, but moments like that, and knowing you got the state of Wyoming, and
Hmm.
not only just behind us, University of Wyoming, but these other Wyoming schools and Chadron and the Colorado schools too. They've really adopted us. Because I'm not a native Wyoming, uh, resident,
But
but
you are now.
and they welcomed me with open arms. And it's I love it here. I mean, I love college rodeo in general and Naira, but in all the regions, and it's great, and I don't want to take anything away from them, but because I'm biased here, but I do love Wyoming, and all Casper does for us.
Well, certainly. So I want to thank everyone for tuning into the Faith Hoffman show today. I apologize for not being coherent enough to speak. Um, I had one of my coworkers, I'm in my office, my real estate office, and one of my coworkers peeked in and was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, I'm good. I got it. I'm good. So I was a little worried, but luckily I warned Faith ahead of time. So Thank you again so much. Listen, one of the
Sure.
things that we're trying to do is create a following for you student athletes to get, we're doing the countdown to the road to the CNFR. All roads lead to Casper. Once you get here, hopefully we've established some fan base for you and you have even more kids following you around.
I'm
Um,
here for it. I'm
there's
down.
nothing better than after a miss like that than a kid putting things in perspective for you.
Yeah, and it just, man, I'm just blessed to get to do this. Rodeo's opened up so many of these opportunities, not only to win and, be the competitor I want to be, but just impact other people's lives, whether it's a fellow competitor, teammate, or just someone in the stands.
Yeah.
Watching you win with composure or lose with composure, and
Yes.
we have these really cool opportunities to be that person for someone. We're not pro athletes. We're not making millions of dollars. Like Russell Wilson is now a Denver Bronco, which is pretty cool, and he gets to impact a bunch of people. But we still get to impact some. We're
Yeah.
not them, but we definitely are called to be here, and it's a fun time. So
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
glad to be here, and glad to have this opportunity, just let alone talk to you and get to talk college rodeo a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and drop you out and I'll do a wrap up.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Faith. All right, you heard it there. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Luckily, you all didn't see me coughing and dying on this end for the most part. Thanks for tuning in. I do see that we have some questions, Joe. I'm going to actually share I'm going to share an article that I just read this morning that Susan Canode wrote in regards to that. Definitely, those people that are going down the road are planning their entries, what rodeos they enter, a little bit differently this year for that reason, for sure. So I will share that. Watch for that, Joe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, we are going to have a little bit of a change because we had some coaches that couldn't show up on certain days. So we're not going to be going in alphabetical order as I had promised. And potentially we're going to be taking Memorial Day off. So we'll go one extra day at the end because we're going to skip Memorial Day. So I'll get that schedule updated. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We just want to get as much information out there about these regions and all the contestants that are going to be coming and competing in Casper. I believe the countdown is, it's going fast. So we've got about 2.5 weeks before check-in. So y'all stay tuned and I will see you guys back here on Monday.
Perfection almost looks easy. But it isn't. Here's to those who go the distance.